Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Schul. Welcome to my data science channel. Talk about data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and things related to that. So in today's project, I want to look at ROI forecasting for strategic decision-making initiatives. So ROI is return on investment, right? We're forecasting, helps organizations quantify the expected value of the strategy and the decision before committing all the resources to that, right? The time and the effort, there's a lot that goes into that. You want to know predictively and potentially how much the payoff is going to be, right? And I've worked for a lot of companies. I've been on Wall Street for 22 years. Sometimes they just go in and they have no idea what's going on. They just start doing things, right? Like, I don't agree with this, but sometimes powers that be just say, okay, we're going to do this and that and the other thing. They have no idea what the outcome is going to be. You have to have a strategy. You have to have planning. You have to do forecasting and anticipate the results. And it could get offline. It could go off the rails, and that's okay. We can get it back on the rails. We can self-correct, but you have to plan what's the outcome? What's the end game? If you don't know what the end game is, why are you even in the game? If you don't know how are you going to win, or you anticipate how you're going to win, why are you even playing the game? It doesn't make sense, right? So let's try to understand this. We want to prioritize what delivers the most value, justify strategic investments, right? If it doesn't make sense, if there's no payoff, there's no ROI, the return on investment is negative or just zero, why would you even do it? It doesn't make sense, right? We have to understand this before we commit. We want to compare multiple scenarios side by side, avoid wasted investments. I did a lot of work on process improvements for many years. Like, you want to not waste time. You want to be productive. You want to project into the future what's going to happen next. Enable continuous optimization, bridge gaps between strategy and finance, right? Like, finance pays everything. In my world, I got my MBA in finance many years ago from Johns Hopkins. Finance does everything. If you don't have positive cash flow for your business, you're going to be out of business very quickly, right? Like, finance is the fundamental structure of the entire corporation. The entity depends on finance. You need finance. You can have sales. That's good. That's bringing money into the company. You can have HR, right? That's recruiting new people. You can have tax. You can have whatever it is, trading. You have risk management. That's all great. But you need finance in place and solid and structured. Otherwise, you have nothing, right? So after execution, can you compare the forecasted ROI to the actual ROI? Did you meet your target or did you not meet your target, right? That's what we need to know. And we need to make improvements in forecasting accuracy. Sometimes you won't be right. You can miss the mark. You're going to go off target a little bit. That's okay once in a while. But you have to make improvements and fine tune your forecasting, or you're going to repeat the same mistake over and over, okay? So I couldn't find the exact data set I wanted, so I created it hypothetically, but this is very realistic. We have departments, strategy type, budget, expected returns, duration, success, probability, right? Like, how successful is this outcome of the strategy that we are going to investigate in and going to invest in, and what's the expected ROI and the ROI percent return, right? So we want these to be quantifiable. What's the expected ROI and what's the ROI percent? I want to quantify that and say, oh, I'm going to increase ROI. Okay, what does that mean? I'm going to increase my KPIs. What does that mean? That's nonsense, right? Like, you want to quantify it and say, this is going to increase by 10%. This is going to increase by 22%. Or this is going to increase by, I don't know, pick your number, like 36%, whatever it is. Like, you want to quantify that and make it realistic and then hit that target, right? But it has to be realistic and manageable, okay? So we're going to create a forecasted ROI based on strategic attributes, okay? And we are going to use a machine learning model. This is a linear regression model. In the machine learning world, there's probably about 40 regression models, probably 40 classifying models, and there's a bunch of clustering models. Maybe by now we're up to 10 or so. There used to be 8. I think they added a couple, and there's different variations, whatever. So we're looking at linear regression. We're trying to predict a certain numeric outcome. In the classification world, it's a label, or it is some type of text or binary classification. In the regression world, it's always like a numeric calculation, like some type of number. We're trying to predict a number, right? So we trained and tested this. We can go ahead and make a prediction based on the model's ability to learn based on the initiative ID. Oh, we're dropping the IDs and the expected return and the expected ROI. Like, you don't train the model on the outcome, right? Like, the outcome is the target variable and that is the Y variable. That's what you're trying to predict. You don't train the model on that. Otherwise, the model is going to learn everything about the target and it is going to make 100% accurate predictions, but can't generalize into the future. You want the model to learn based on the inputs and make a prediction or projection about the output, but you can't put the output into the model, right? It's just going to memorize everything and it's going to be like 100% accurate, but it can't make predictions into the future about what this thing can be, right? So we want to drop the target variable and the identifier and the expected return, okay, and the ROI too. So now we trained and tested the model. We want to go ahead and make a prediction. Let me hit Control Enter. The simulated ROI for this scenario is $51,577 in profit. So that's great, right? So if the budget is this and it takes 12 months, success probability is that, department ops, all these things. You input all the numbers, right? And make a prediction into the future, and the simulated improvement or investment here is 51,000. So you invest 100,000, you get 51,000 back. So 51% increase ROI. So pretty decent ROI. I will engage in that. And the point of this exercise is, like, if this is shorter, right? If this is 05 or just 5, I think it just 5, Control Enter, 46,000. So if you put less time in, you get less out of it. And success probability, if this is 0.9, this should increase. 42,000. This is 0.2. 72,000, okay, success probability. So whatever you train and test the model on here, right, is going to determine what the prediction is over here, okay? And this is the ROI. Whatever you put in, you get out, right? Okay, so let's move on. If we do another machine learning model, this is linear regression again. That's what I used above, right? So linear regression, Control F, find that. I use that down here. So similar, not even similar, I mean exactly the same type of model, similar setup. We're looking at these different features as the X variable. These are the independent features. So the independent can be anything that you want, but you don't include the dependent, right? The expected ROI has to be out of there, okay? So we're going to try to predict that. So you can have one independent variable, you can have dozens, you can have hundreds, and try to predict one dependent variable. So X is the independent, Y is the dependent. I have several videos on my channel about how this works. So we hit Control Enter and run it, and we can see what the outcome is. We can see department ID, department type, ops, department sales, and so on and so forth, and the predicted ROI in terms of dollars, right? So this, I would engage in that. I would invest in that. This one I would invest in. This I would invest in. This is losing money. I would not invest in that, right? This is making money. This is making a little bit. This is losing, okay? So definitely wouldn't invest in that. That is down 20,000. That's just money wasted, right? You're not going to invest in these things, these types of things. And you can identify this by the department and by the strategy type, okay? So let's move on and look at a visual. I always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So this is showing us grouping by department ID and strategy type and the predicted ROI. That's what we got back here, predicted ROI, right, in terms of dollars. You can see higher is better, higher is yellow. So this is good, this is good, this is good. This is a heat map. Anything at 0, like I wouldn't invest in this. HR efficiency, no, that's a bad investment. You're losing money. You're losing $12,000. Don't invest in that. Or ask the question, like, why are we losing $12,000? Like, have a sit down with the head of HR and say, like, why is this happening? What's going on? What's happening over here? What's this thing? What's this thing? Like, the why is the most important question to determine the how, the what, the where, the when. These are pretty straightforward. These are pretty simple. The why is probably the most complicated to answer, but it's the most efficient, right? Because it's going to help you really understand why something happens. And when you can change it and make it better, that is going to help your business the most, right? So the why is the most important question. So you can have a sit down with HR. Why are you undertaking this project that's called efficiency, right? This is growth, this is efficiency, this is innovation over here. Why are you doing this, and what exactly is happening with your department? Let's try to figure that out. And I'm not saying like the person is a bad person or like they're not doing their job or whatever, but let's figure out why something's happening and then self-correct and improve that process. Okay, so here's another heat map: ROI by duration and department. So you can see department on the vertical over here, duration on the horizontal. So this one is losing 120K. We can zoom in. This is a plotly plot. I can double click and zoom out. Okay, so 120,000 by duration months. So we would not do this type of thing, right? This is losing money. This makes no sense, right? Over here, we're losing 22,000. No, we're not going to do this. It doesn't make sense, right? We're trying to project into the future and forecast what can happen next. 490,000 if we invest money in this project, okay, and it's going to have a payout of 490K. Yeah, I'll get behind that. I will support that. I will invest time and effort and labor into that project. That's what I'm going to do. 490,000 is payout, and all these others, the lighter the color, the better. I see 350K over here, okay, and I see 300, 280, 290. These are fine. Anything that's negative, just avoid it. You know that's going to be a failure. But also, like, try to understand why this is happening and try to prevent that from happening too. So now in this last example, I want to show PD cut. I have a whole video on cutting and binning and bagging and collecting all the data into these bins. These are called bins of data. We have a data frame success probability, and we have 0 to 2%, 4%, 2% to 4%. Okay, that's the next bin. 4% to 6, 6 to 8, and then 8 to 100% probability, right? So we can see the different bins down here, and we can see what's happening, right? So again, the picture's worth 1,000 words. We can print out the data. That's very easy, but I like to look at these visuals. This has 76,000 ROI potential. This is 77. This is 70, 63, 56. This is a little bit lower, 19. I say 18, 60, 39. So anything that's lighter, like a little bit mustard color, like a lighter shade, I would invest in that. Over here, we can see -2, 2 to 4. These bins over here don't make any sense. They're losing money. You want at least success of 4 to 6% to even engage in that project. If you have 2% chance of success, like, don't even do that, right? And we start above. We can see what the probabilities are. We can see it here, and we can see it over here, right? And all the numbers come from here. We can see it over here. So anything that has a high probability of success and ROI, return on investment, yeah, we should engage in that. We should invest in that, okay? That's effort, that's labor, that takes time too. So we should get behind that and support that. But anything that has very low success, don't even start it, okay? And I can predict based on historical events, like based on what happened in the past, I can tell you what's going to happen in the future. We need that past. We need something to train the model. We need to train the model, test the model, and make predictions into the future. If you have no data, if you're a brand new startup and you have nothing, then yeah, you have trial by error and trial by fire, and you don't know what's going to happen. But after you have a little bit of history, you can collect the history and aggregate that and say, okay, this is what happened in the past. I can anticipate what's going to happen in the future. I can make these predictions into the future, and I can set up my forecasting and my strategy to align with success. That's what we're trying to do, to create success, forecast success, and understand success. That's the whole point of these exercises, right? So I have about 7 videos that I just created about strategy, and then forecasting. Strategy and forecasting are kind of similar, different, but mostly similar. I have 7 videos about strategy, and then how to use the strategy based on your knowledge of the past to predict or to anticipate what's going to happen in the future, okay? So that's what that is. I'm going to wrap it up. Hopefully this was informative and educational and useful for you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.